on the movement of the urine that got formed, okay, that muscular tube, the way that it's going to meet the bladder for the structure of that bladder, and I think they tried to show it in the picture, okay, those ureters come in and have a point where they enter. And then we have the urethral sphincter, the urethra that's going to exit. So urine moves in. The bladder itself is a muscular sac. Just in case you don't remember, transitional epithelium is present, that sort of thing. All right, and then we're going to see that the smooth muscle portion, so as you look at the structure of this bladder wall, okay, this detrusor muscle is present, and the transitional epithelium has that ability for the mucosa to be present because urine's going to be acidic. The normal pH of urine should, I think, be roughly about 6 or 6.5. It's one or the other. Don't quote me on it. Okay, which is relatively acidic in all means. And so that transitional epithelium and the mucosal lining keeps the urine from actually eating through the tissues that are present. And because it is transitional epithelium, this allows for that bladder to expand and recoil. After you empty your bladder, the bladder actually goes flat. And then as it continues to fill up with urine, it will begin to expand. All right? And everybody has a point to which the bladder is full. For the most part, it can hold about 500 milliliters. Now, that's a lot for some of us, okay? And yes, some of us don't have the capacity of others, all right? And yes, that means they have to go urinate more often. So the structure that we're going to see, those ureters come in. We have the sphincter that's going to exit. You guys remember, there's the smooth muscle, the skeletal muscle. The goal is for that urethra to pass the urine out of the body and be controlled by those sphincters. The skeletal one is the one we train. So hopefully what happens under normal conditions, okay, we have our nervous control. We have the sympathetic pathway that hopefully will keep that bladder, as it continuously fills, from just letting the urine out, okay? Because we're going to see that we've got that sympathetic smooth muscle ring, the sphincter, okay, the internal sphincter. So as we get the control by these fibers, okay, what we're going to find, the bladder will begin to fill up. And because we have sympathetic fibers, all right, and we have this nerve connection, it'll send information to the brain, letting us feel like we need to go urinate. The term for that, micturition, all right, and the term, you'll see that, okay, micturition. And because it allows for the filling of the bladder and then the expelling of the urine, okay, it's called the micturition reflex. And in this reflex, the nerve connection that will be present, it will note the amount of fluid filling up the bladder, putting the pressure on those tissues. It will begin to send information up to a region of the brain to recognize it. We'll eventually get a somatic response back. Autonomic up, somatic down. And that is the reflex we work to control. When children are going through their potty training stage, this is the point that they are working at. So, depending upon the stretch receptors information that they send, how much is filling up, how much is going to be pressing on those tissues, you'll begin to get that feeling of, oh, interesting. Or, now take that exit, or just simply pull over to the side of the road. Either one's fine with me, okay? So, you go. When the kidneys fail, they can, they will, and they do. All right? Dialysis is something that you're probably going to encounter. All right? It has, different ways that it can be done. All right? Some people can have peritoneal dialysis that they're doing. That's usually where they have a machine they hook up to at night, that sort of thing. And then, of course, hemodialysis, which is where it's with the blood vessels that they're hooked up to cleanse the blood.
Why do, when you get dialysis, I don't know what kind my grandfather had. I know he did drink a lot, though. But when he had dialysis, his arm, he had these, big bruises. I don't know if they're bruises, but they were, huge.
Yeah, so he was having it done in his arm. That is a major point that they will do it, and it does lead to damage. I mean, you're talking this process, blood is coming out, going through the machine, and getting returned to the body. So it's actually doing what the kidneys should be doing. In some cases, they have to go in through the neck up here. Horrible, horrible. Okay. Some cases, like I said, some people are hooked up peritoneal, and they hook up to a machine at night and let it do the job, and it's bad. It's bad. Wrong?
So what's the difference between all those? Was it just different?
It's going to be the level of kidney damage present. People who are on hemodialysis, chances are the kidneys have not completely reached a point that is no return. With hemodialysis, their kidneys have failed to a certain percentage of what they'll determine, and they have the hemodialysis performed, and then they may not have to come back for 3 days, or they may not have to come back for 4 days. But in that time frame, at the beginning, it makes them, they feel much better because, of course, they've gotten rid of the toxins. But by the time they get back to their next dialysis treatment, things have built back up and that sort of thing. When it gets to the point where that time frame continues to shorten and shorten and shorten in between, that might become the case where the person might have to be on peritoneal. And they may have every night they hook up to it and let it work while they sleep, so to speak. And usually, in some cases where maybe they have to have the dialysis done every day, they may insert ports here so that something is permanent in the vessels. So it depends upon the extent of what the damage is. Hemodialysis is the one where people come in and hopefully have a few days before they have to return. Yeah. So hemodialysis, the job is to send it through a system that has tubing in it that acts as filters, like the kidney. So it can allow the waste to be filtered out and the cleansed blood to go back in. So sometimes people may need this done acutely. It might be something that they don't have to stay on permanently. But of course, people who are in renal disease, people who are in renal failure, maybe are on a transplant list, whatever the case might be, they're going to be having this done. Yeah. That, I think, officially ends chapter 23. You guys don't have to hear me talk anymore.